Natural resources, raw materials, precious metals, and lush land are all abundant in the stunning continent of Africa. With 54 nations and approximately 1.3 billion inhabitants, Africa has a nominal GDP of $2.2 trillion. Agriculture, natural resources, and trade are the main economic movers. It continued to be a hub for resources, innovations, and ideas in 2013 when it experienced the fastest growth. By 2050, it is predicted that the African economy would have expanded steadily and will have a GDP of $29 trillion, playing a significant role in the world economy. Within the next 10 years, the majority of the continent's nations are predicted by the World Bank to achieve middle income status, defined as having a GDP per capita of at least $1,000. Africa's economic development varies greatly by nation and by region, with the variation going beyond culture and trade to include things like historical development, global relations, and substantial resources. So we decided to bring you the top 10 countries where the bulk of this growth is focused. Here are the wealthiest countries in Africa in 2022. But before we proceed, we'd love it if you take a few seconds of your time to hit the like button. Have you done that? Number 10. Ghana. Ghana, a beautiful West African nation, is known for its resource-rich and diverse economy. The nation was the first in sub-Saharan Africa to achieve both the goal of having extreme poverty and its freedom from colonial authority. Due to its generally favorable business environment, the country has attracted international investments and has seen economic growth of little over 6% during the last 2 years. Nearly 30% of Ghana's workforce is employed in the service sector, which accounts for about 50% of the country's GDP. Agriculture comes in second with a contribution to GDP of little less than 25%. Natural resources are abundant in Ghana, contributing to the country's economic growth. The primary export of the nation is gold. This is followed by petroleum, and together they make up 50% of the country's foreign exchange. Other major exports include cocoa beans, timber, and gold. Ghana has a GDP of $74 billion. Number 9. Tanzania. Tanzania, which is ranked 9th on this list of the richest nations on the African continent, recently made the cut with a GDP of over $75 billion. The nation has a lower middle mixed income economy and is known as the location of some of the most well-known national parks on the continent, including Kilimanjaro. Agriculture accounts for roughly 25% of the GDP and 50% of employment in the nation, which is primarily dependent on it. Industries that make up about 30% of GDP includes mining, manufacturing, construction, electricity, natural gas, and water delivery are developing sectors of the economy. Gold, coffee, cashew nuts, and cotton are the principal exports. Tanzania's economy has grown at a rate of 5.6% over the past few years, which is relatively high, but it does not appear to be slowing down. The real GDP is expected to expand 5.8% in 2022 as a result of the reopening of trade routes and improved tourism sector performance. The medium-term economic prognosis is favorable, underpinned by significant infrastructure spending. The total number of individuals living in poverty has stayed constant over the past few years despite economic progress and a decline in the poverty rate. If you are still watching this video, it means you love content about the African continent and you would love to see Africa grow even better. Why not take out a second and hit the like button? Number 8. Ethiopia. Ethiopia, a landlocked nation in the Horn of Africa divided by the Great Rift Valley, is the 8th richest nation in Africa. This ancient region is renowned for being the birthplace of the coffee bean, with archaeological artifacts reaching back more than 3 million years. The country produces the most coffee and honey in Africa, which contributes significantly to the country's foreign exchange. Legumes, fatty seeds, and cut flowers are some more exports. Agriculture, building, manufacturing, tourism, food processing, resources, and energy all contribute to the more than $100 billion of GDP. The most potential resource in the area is agriculture, which accounts for more than 40% of the GDP, 60% of exports, and more than 80% of all jobs. Since 2008, the average annual growth rate for Ethiopia's economy has been 9.9%. Few African countries have been able to maintain constant annual growth, but it has started to draw global investment. To further open up the economy and drive change, the administration started an extensive economic reform in 2018. By 2015, the country's poverty rate has decreased to 31%, and by 2025, it aims to have a middle-income economy. But there are several things to watch out for, like excessive consumer inflation, socio-political unrest, and a weak private sector. Number 7. Kenya. With a GDP of over $114 billion, Kenya, an East African nation renowned for its expansive landscapes and animals, is the next richest nation in Africa. This country is the wealthiest in the Southeast and Central Africa due to its stable living conditions, well-established coffee and tea industries, and fast-expanding agricultural sector. The region's commerce hub was formerly home to several strategically important ports for Asian and Arabian traders along its coastline. Kenya's economy doesn't rely on the oil industry, like so many other nations on our list, but it nevertheless grows in a variety of ways. With a GDP growth of 5.7% in 2019, Kenya has become one of the sub-Saharan African countries with the fastest-growing economies. This is due to increased investor confidence, a favorable macroeconomic environment, a stable political environment, and a clear corporate objective. Nearly half of the GDP is contributed by the industrial sector. The primary agricultural products are coffee, tea, and maize, which account for 35% of the GDP, while petroleum accounts for a sizable portion of its foreign exchange. Other sectors with rapid growth include tourism, financial services, and technology. Number 6. Angola. One of Africa's largest reserves of raw minerals is in the nation of Angola. In essence, it could rank higher on this list of the richest countries in Africa. However, the country's economy has suffered as a result of inefficient resource management and internal corruption. It ranks 6th on this list with a GDP of more than $124 billion. Large natural gas and oil reserves, which account for more than one-third of Angola's GDP, underpin the country's economy. Significant amounts of foreign exchange are generated through the production and export of crude oil. In actuality, the sale of crude oil accounts for 90% of the country's export-related income. Diamonds and cargo ships are two additional notable exports. Future economic growth is also anticipated to make agriculture a significant sector. In 2002, Angola's civil war came to an end. Since then, constructive actions have been done in the direction of stability and economic growth. Alongside the IMF and the World Bank, work has been done on both political and structural changes. Morocco. Morocco is the third largest producer of phosphorus in the world and is strongly dependent on its agricultural sector. The nation has reaped significant benefits from its diverse exports, which also include automobiles, parts for automobiles, and electrical equipment. The telecom and textile sectors also contribute significantly to the economy. However, domestic issues have stifled Morocco's economic growth, which resulted in real GDP growth of only 2.7% in 2019, falling short of the World Bank's forecast of 2.9%. Number 4. Algeria. Algeria, the largest nation in Africa, is located in the north and is ranked 4th on our list of the richest nations in Africa. With a GDP of over $190 billion, a sizable economy, and readily available infrastructure, the county has made substantial progress in reducing poverty by 20% over the past 20 years. This quickly developing industrial nation has benefited from the recent discovery of additional crude oil reserves. Algeria's other economic sectors are agriculture, industrial production, financial services, and construction. The nation is also one of Africa's major sources of ammonia. It is important to note that the country's foreign exchange reserves have decreased as a result of the recent recession and volatility in oil prices. Algeria's economic growth has also slowed down due to political unrest and scandals in the oil sector. Number 3. South Africa. As the third richest nation in Africa, this continent's most southern nation is an important actor. The nation is regarded as one of the fastest developing nations in the world, with a highly developed economy, cutting-edge infrastructure, and a GDP of over $400 billion. One of the only nations on this list that is not dependent on a single source of income is South Africa, also known as the Rainbow Nation. Mining, manufacturing, financial services, and tourism are all well represented in the nation. Additionally, it exports a lot of raw materials, including coal, iron ore, gold, diamonds, and platinum. For instance, it exports more gold and platinum than any other country in the world. The nation is well known throughout the world as a top travel destination and heavily relies on tourism to support its economy. Number 2. Egypt. For many years, this historic region of northern Africa was the richest nation in the continent. However, during the 2011 upheaval during the Arab uprising, the economy suffered greatly as foreign exchange reserves plummeted. Egypt is now ranked second on this list of wealthy African nations, with the most recent GDP of more than $430 billion. Over the past 10 years, economic activity has increased and stabilized, resulting in good economic growth. The government and IMF recently completed a program of economic reform aimed at strengthening and reforming the economy. From 5.3% in 2018, real GDP growth increased to 5.6% in 2019. Falling unemployment rates, improved foreign exchange reserves, increased exports of products and services, and strengthened tourism industry have all helped the nation thrive. Number 1. Nigeria. With a population of more than 200 million, this West African nation is vital to the continent's economy. Nigeria is the richest nation in Africa, with a GDP of little over $510 billion. Finance, transportation, infrastructure, tourism, and an abundance of crude oil all contribute significantly to the sizable GDP according to OPEC. The nation exports the most crude oil in Africa, with a daily average of almost 1.6 million barrels. Over 80% of the money made by the export sector comes from these petroleum exports, which account for 10% of the entire GDP. Nigeria has a plethora of natural resources and raw materials in addition to petroleum, which adds to the prosperity of the area. These include niobium, iron ore, coal, limestone, zinc, lead, and tin. Additionally, there is enough fertile terrain to support agriculture, which generates more than 20% of the country's gross domestic product and produces rubber and cocoa. Nigeria is now Africa's top consumer retailer thanks in part to its vast population, which has also benefited the country's rapidly expanding tech sector. Nigeria's GDP expanded by 7% annually between 2000 and 2014, one of the fastest rates in Africa, according to the World Bank. Political unrest, social reasons, and shocks to the oil and production industries have all contributed to this slowing to 2% in recent years. In an effort to reduce its dependency on oil refineries and processing facilities, the nation has placed a high priority on conserving its natural resources. Nigeria, the continent's top GDP producer and wealthiest nation, is well known for its strong cultural legacy, numerous ethnic groups, stunning natural surroundings, and sizable population. Those were the richest nations in Africa. If you enjoy this video, please don't forget to leave a like and also subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming content. Thanks for watching and see you in another one.